Hey guys, Ricky Widmer here from Most Valuable Podcast. You're about to listen to a little bit of our primetime podcast that we recorded this week. Make sure to go to Blog Talk Radio / Most Valuable Podcast for our full-length podcast that you can go ahead and download. I hope you enjoy it. I know me and Brandon did recording it. But Brandon, we got to move on into our second topic, and we're going to be looking at Archie Miller. Archie, as he is now the head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers, Brandon. He gets a 7-year deal worth an estimated $3.5 million per season. And Brandon, I'm going to start this out by asking one question, one simple question. What does this signing mean for Indiana's future?
Well, I think it means that Indiana basketball is going to get a breath of fresh air. And I think that for a long time, Tom Crean was a staple there. But I think that, unfortunately, a lot of times staples, they start to fizzle out. Mm-hmm. And when clearly it wasn't going the way that they wanted it to, well, Indiana has been very good in the Big Ten, and they were not. I mean, in a year when the Big Ten wasn't even all that strong, and you end up having actually some pretty good teams get into the tournament and make a pretty good run, and IU is not one of those teams, I think you need to make a change. So I think it was a good time to do it, but I think that Archie Miller, what he's going to do is he's going to bring a new sense of, I don't want to say urgency, but a new sense of, you know what, we're going to win. We're going to win again. And it's not going to take long, but we're going to have to work hard to get there. I think it's kind of the same. Mm-hmm. It'll be kind of the same notion that the new head coach at Illinois, Brad Underwood, is bringing. Mm-hmm. Hey, you know what? We're going to work hard. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. We're going to achieve some goals, but we're going to work our asses off to do it. And I think that's one thing that Archie Miller is going to bring. With a 139-63 record to back him up at Dayton and winning 24 or more games in the past 4 seasons, I think that is definitely something that IU will welcome.
Well, and the first thing I look at is the recruits that they're bringing in this season. And along with Archie Miller, unless any of them decommit, which none of them have yet, you have Justin Smith, a guy from not our backyard. He's a little bit north from where we are, from Stevenson High School in Lincolnshire, number 4 player in the state of Illinois. He's a power forward going to be there. They also got power forward from Pennsylvania, Clifton Moore, and then Durham, the point guard from Georgia. So a seventh recruit in the state of Pennsylvania, and Moore, the 18th ranked recruit in Georgia in Durham. So they got 3 guys coming in. They're the 4th or 5th. They're the 4th ranked recruiting class this year coming in. If he can keep those guys, that's good. What this means for the future of Indiana, though, is this means that your AD, I want to say ownership, even though it's college basketball, wants you to be successful again. They want you to be at the top of the Big Ten. And I look at Tom Crean. Like you said, Tom Crean has kind of been a staple in Indiana, where the first 3 years, we had to wait for his recruiting class to get in. That 4th year, once it was his guys and he kind of built that recruiting trail, they go Sweet 16, Sweet 16, a bad year in 13-14, then round of 64, and then Sweet 16 before not making the tournament this year. And I kind of feel if the AD and everyone in Indiana thought, I'm seeing a trend here. After he got settled, 2 on, 1 off. 2 on, this was the off year. Yeah, we can have 2 on for the next 2 years, but are we happy with the 2 on Sweet 16's the farthest we've gone and then losing? No, you're not happy with that. And Archie Miller will bring a style. It's like David Kaplan said today when I was listening to Cap and Company during my lunch on ESPN radio here in Chicago. He said there were a ton of people when Crean got fired that you got to get an Indiana guy. You got to bring in a guy who knows the culture, lives, breathes, bleeds Indiana. And David Kaplan's like, no, what are you talking about? No, stop thinking that way. You hire the guy who's best for the job, because when you bring him in, if he's really the guy for the job, he's going to become an Indiana guy, and that's what Archie Miller is. Archie Miller, if we're saying he's any guy, he would have been waiting for Thad Matta to either get fired or leave Ohio State, and he would have taken that Ohio State job. When they were interviewing him today on Cap and Company, he even said, you had a ton of jobs that you could have taken, but you waited out. You waited for this one. And the thing that's great for Archie is because he did that, he wasn't going to go to like, I got to get to the Big Ten. I got to get to the Big Ten. Well, then you get a job like Rutgers, and it's like, well, why do you think they're at the bottom? Because they're in a shit situation. You're out in 2 years because you can't change that team. You wait around for the right team. This is the right team with the right pedigree. And the one thing I liked that Archie said in that interview was the first thing that he wants to do is call some of the high school coaches from around the area in Indiana, talk to them, and what he said, most importantly, get them on campus, get that face-to-face, get that relationship going, and build those relationships with the surrounding state. Because he says, we got a ton of great recruits right here in the state of Indiana. And it seems like that's what Brad Underwood's going as well. We got a ton of recruits right here in Illinois that they can pull from. It looks like to me that Archie and Indiana right now, I mean, they haven't played any basketball together. It's going to be a good marriage for both teams. It's going to be a successful one. I'm not saying national championship kind of success. That's getting ahead of yourself. But they are going to be tournament perennials each and every year under Archie Miller.
And I think that that's one of the biggest things is the fact of what you had said, the 2 on, 1 off. Mm-hmm. You want to be able to start to build up. Okay, so this year we got to the tournament. We were able to win a game. Okay, we got knocked out. Next year, we get to the Sweet 16. Year after that, maybe Elite 8. That type of thing where you're consistently going to the tournament, and the hope would be that you're consistently getting better as you go along. And I think that that's what Indiana was most concerned with, like you had mentioned, is they were so concerned they would take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I think they were tired of doing that, where they wanted to get to the point where, hey, we're taking 3 steps forward, and then we're building off of that, moving forward again. And, it's a process. It's a process, especially when you bring in a new coach who's going to go after probably a different type of recruit. So all of that factors in. And I think that Archie Miller could definitely be the guy to do it. And I agree with Cap. He doesn't need to be an Indiana guy. Mm-hmm. He just needs to be the right guy for the job.
And then
that is the biggest thing.
And then he'll become that Indiana guy.
Exactly.
And the one thing that the big thing that I think about is recruiting. Because if Archie Miller wants to be successful at Indiana, there's no question in my mind that Archie Miller can coach. But he's got to be able to bring in the recruits. And the one thing that is going to be indicative of his success is how competitive are you going to make this team in the Big Ten? Are you guys going to be a team like you were this year where, I'll be honest, kind of middle of the pack kind of a team, and then you get bounced? I'm looking at Dayton. He started out kind of to get a scope, started out 6 recruiting class coming in the A10, 6 recruiting class when he was leaving. So it's one of those things where, I know you're at Dayton, now you're at Indiana, so you get that draw of people might want to come play for you a little bit more now because you're in a Big Ten, you're not in an A10, and you're not that smaller school. But to me, the 2 things that is going to be really important for Archie Miller, recruiting and then building your culture almost immediately. Because let's be honest, Indiana's not in a dire situation. It's not like, I'd say that Brad Underwood in Illinois has a little bit of a harder job getting everything back because of how far we've fallen. We weren't even making the tournament, Brandon. We haven't even made the tournament in forever. At least Indiana can say, well, yeah, last year we made the tournament. We didn't make it this year. We made it the last two. At least they can remember the last time they made the tournament and weren't in college, sophomore, junior year, when that was the last time that Illinois made the tournament for me. So I would say that he's in a good situation, but recruiting is the biggest part. Can you draw people in? Can you make it a hotspot destination for the Big Ten each and every year? And what might be interesting is how will it work to target Indiana recruits? Because that's what it sounds like to me. When he says we got a great talent pool here in the state of Indiana, kind of sounds like he's saying, hey, we're going to rope off the state of Indiana and our big recruits from Indiana don't leave.
I think that that's going to be the most important thing to do. And I think that as much as you can within the state to be able to get those guys to come to your program, I think the better. I mean, it's sometimes you want to, and sometimes you definitely can get a little overexcited by trying to go out and get guys from some of the other states. But I think that, you're most likely never going to get the California guy. He's going to UCLA. Or he's going to Cal, or he's going, to one of those spots. Yeah. But you can certainly go get that Indiana guy, see if you can be in competition for any of the Illinois guys. Great competition there. I mean, any of those other surrounding states where you can possibly bring guys into Indiana, and it won't be that bad. I mean, Indiana's a pretty good draw. It's a good school. It's a big school.
It's a basketball state.
It's a basketball state for sure. I mean, Hoosiers. So I think that there's all of that. It's all a sell.
I want to ask you this, and this is kind of to maybe wrap everything up or getting to that way. Let's say we're going to look into our crystal ball. Let's say he makes the entire 7-year contract at Indiana. We're saying he's not getting fired halfway through because something catastrophic happened. What is Indiana and Archie Miller's trek like the next 7 years? If you had to look into the crystal ball and let me know what you see.
I'm going to say they get to the tournament this next year. I'm going to say that they lose first round. I'm going to say that they're probably a Sweet 16 team in year 4. And I will say that they are Elite 8 in year 6.
So by the end of it, they are end of the second weekend, maybe knocking on the door for that Final Four.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. With me, when I look into my crystal ball, in order for them to be successful, they have to, because there's one school that I look at that's going to be in prime competition with those same Indiana guys as them. Purdue. Right now, where's Purdue? Sweet 16 team, top of the Big Ten. Steal some of those guys away. Make those guys that are going to Purdue over you, make them want to come to Indiana instead. That's what you got to do. And the one thing that I am honestly excited for is with Archie Miller now at Indiana, with Brad Underwood now at Illinois, with Chris Collins at Northwestern, I feel like the next few years, when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to games on the court, when it comes to just overall rivalry, we're going to see a lot of good competition between the in-state schools for the Big Ten. So, like, Illinois Northwestern, trying to pull at those same guys, trying to get those same guys. Indiana Purdue, trying to get those same guys, trying to coerce them over to your team compared to the enemy's team. And that's not even counting in the Wisconsins and the Marylands. And this is a good move, not just for Indiana's future, but for the Big Ten's future as well. Because this is just going, the Big Ten is only successful when they have a ton of competitive teams. And this move makes Indiana competitive. Now, I don't know if down the line, Indiana, like, I'm not going to say, oh, they're a Final Four team with Archie Miller. I might be hesitant to say they're an Elite Eight team with Archie Miller. To me, we're going to have to wait and see. I think that they're going to be a team that, especially with Archie Miller, if it doesn't happen the first year, second year on, make them a lock for the tournament.
I feel like they can't, and the reason I said Elite Eight team is I feel it can be Elite Eight team because I feel like with Archie Miller and how he can recruit is that he can bring some of those guys that maybe go to Purdue. Oh, I mean, we've seen how Purdue is.
Yep.
Last year, Purdue was an Elite Eight team. They just screwed up. This year, they were an Elite Eight team.
They lost to Little Rock.
I mean, I think that they clearly have the talent. Indiana, bring over some big guys. Bring over some of those big guys that Purdue has, or that the Purdue got. I mean, I don't know if they make them like that anymore, but bring them.
They have them in a factory and they just produce them each year.
Sometimes I think that's exactly what happens with some of these teams. But I think if you're able to go and try and get that talent, you can be an Elite Eight team.
And the thing that I'm looking at here, and I went to see if he was even close to going. He got an offer from Indiana. He didn't go there, though. But Caleb Swanigan, I'm looking at the crystal ball from he was a class of 15 recruit. Guess where most of the writers for the crystal ball of Caleb Swanigan said he was going to go? 57% Cal, 26% Michigan State, 9% Purdue. And where did he end up going?
Purdue.
Ended up going to Purdue. And Caleb Swanigan, a Fort Wayne, Indiana guy, a in-state guy. So for me, my final thoughts on the Archie Miller, what does it mean for the future of Indiana? Sky's the limit. Indiana fans can now say the future is bright for us. And Archie Miller, recruiting is going to be the main thing I look at because on the court, phenomenal coach. He knows how to coach. I do not have to worry about the X's and O's when it comes to Archie Miller. It's about who can he bring in, what recruiting classes can he build. Before we move on, just final snippets of thoughts for this.
I think the same thing. I think that what he did at Dayton is just a little snapshot of what we're going to be able to see him do at a bigger school at IU.
And I'm going to call this, because we're moving on to a section that's not a coaching segment, the next coach who will be like Archie Miller, maybe not next year, but in a future year, watch out for him, Chris Mack at Xavier. Chris Mack will get a job in a good Power 5 team. Wait for it. He's going to be the next one. He will be the next one to get that job.
At Xavier.
He might stay at Xavier his whole time, but I just look at him and I go, I can't, someone's going to be knocking on your door one of these days. Somebody will knock on that door. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below. Indiana fans, I want to hear from you. What do you guys think of Archie Miller signing? What does it mean for the Hoosiers' future? Down in the comment section. Well, thank you guys for checking out this video from the Primetime Podcast. If you want to check out more, click right over here. The video's right over here. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out.